Hello, I'm Bob Ross. Welcome to another series of The Joy of Airgunning. Today we're going to do a nice little mountain landscape. Let's think of it up in the wilds of Alaska. First thing to do is start with the sky. The sky is the happiest part of any painting. I'm going to get a little bit of cerulean blue here. Just load up the brush, whack it a little bit, and then we're going to do X strokes up here. Just go along. I'm going to leave a little spot here. I want a little happy little cloud to live right there. That's where it's going to be. Now for the mountain, we're going to load up our knife here, but let's get the paint mixed. We've got blue and we've got red. If you've watched previous seasons, you know that makes purple. Let's mix this up together. We're going to get a little bit of brown in there. Now see, I'm not mixing the colors completely. As I get those lines on my knife, they'll live there. They'll stay there. So just scoop that up there. And now we're going to make a happy little mountain here, a noble, majestic mountain. I'm just going to come down there. Now we're going to do a happy little tree. I love trees. They're the homes of squirrels, of chipmunks, of all the best things in the world. So to do this, we're going to take our green, get a little bit of black, a little bit of brown, mix it up here again. I want those colors to be slightly separate. And then we're just going to come up here like this. Now it's the top lines of a mountain that are always the crispest. Let's keep these nice and clean. Touch them up with just a little bit here. A little bit of black to highlight right there. Okay, we come down. I've got this blurred out a little bit, so it looks like a nice little glacier up there. That's gorgeous, beautiful. I want a Texan LSS to live in this painting. I want it to live right over here. We're going to get a little bit of black and just a little bit of white for a highlight there. The LSS is a happy gun. You know, it's powerful, but it's quiet. It's like a deep mountain stream or the Loch Ness Monster. Let's get it right up here. There we go. Yeah, that's a happy gun. What's this Texan gonna do today? Is he gonna find a happy little deer? Maybe a happy little squirrel? Squirrel's not gonna be happy for long, is it? So that's my painting of the Texan LSS. Now remember, yours doesn't have to look the same way. You've got your own eyes, artist's eyes. Use them. Paint how you want to. Thanks for watching, and God bless.
Today we are looking at the Texan LSS. Now this is a huge gun. It's got a lot of things going for it. I'm not going to, however, give you a full in-depth review of every aspect of it because it is basically a Texan with a huge old can on it to make it quiet. There are a few things that are new that we'll cover here, but things I want to point out in general here. It comes in 257, 308, 357, and a 457. This is the 457 we have here. Now, my two favorite calibers for the Texan are the 257 and the 457. You know, the 457 gives you that huge, powerful knockdown that you need for big game, for really when you need to put something to sleep. Now, the 257 gives you really good long-range shooting. It gives you more shots per fill, and so forth. And then the 308 and 357 fall somewhere in the middle there. What they've done new with this gun, and what they've done with the Texans in general, is they've developed a new valve. So when you get the gun, you'll notice, you know, when you buy the gun, it comes, you know, with this section here, and then you put on the tank and fill up the tank. One of the differences between the new valve and the old valve is that there's no return spring here. So the only thing keeping that valve closed is the back pressure. So when you get your gun, you need to take that little valve and pull the stem out until it, you can't pull it all the way out. Just pull it out, and then you can fill it up. If the valve's in there, then the air will just, if the valve stem's seated, the air will just come out and you won't be able to fill it up. So pull that thing out and fill it up. What that does, along with that spring and the new redesigned valve in general, is give you more power. So in 45 caliber, for example, the Texan, the full-size Texan, which this is the full-size Texan with the moderator here on the end. Instead of being a 500 foot-pound gun, it's now a 600 foot-pound gun. the carbine size, the shorter Texan or the Texan SS, which were 400 foot-pound guns, are now 500 foot-pound guns. So a pretty significant increase in power, and for me, I think that increased power is actually adding accuracy also, with a little bit of testing I've been able to do, but we'll get to that here in a little bit and really find out. Now, is this gun too long? Well, it might be for some of you, and that's fine. AirForce thought it was too long and kind of resisted making this gun for a while. I mean, they came out, when they did their shrouded version, their SS, they put it on a smaller barrel to keep the size down. But some of you kept asking for a suppressed full-size Texan, so you could keep the same amount of power and still make it quiet. Now, when we talk quiet, it's not backyard friendly, but it is no longer, damaging to your ears to shoot. I mean, if you're shooting outside, you can shoot this without ear protection. I mean, your mileage may vary, but it does quiet it down quite a bit. So the length of it is going to be an issue for some people if it's not a brush gun. If you're in one of those situations where you're going through thick brush and you need to, be able to move quickly and get through that, you're not going to want this. You're going to want to go with the SS or just, the regular Texan or the carbine. But if your situation is such that, this extra length isn't going to be a problem, then great. You've got a quiet, powerful, and really accurate air gun here. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with the Texan Platform, I'll go over and give you kind of the bird's eye view, touch on these things, pretty quickly here. So starting at the back here, we have an adjustable butt pad. It's adjustable for length of pull, meaning the distance between the butt pad and the trigger. So you can adjust this here. You can see I've got this backed, almost all the way to the back. The pad here is adjustable up and down, depending on the screws, where you put the screw. You've got a position here, here, and here. I've got it set up for offhand shooting, not bench shooting, which would be up here more. And you may laugh at, say, shooting this offhand. It's actually a great gun to shoot offhand because of the length, and it's got so much, kind of a forward balance, which means it's not going to twitch and jump around as much when you're holding it. It's like having a big old long stabilizer on the front. So it's actually a great gun for shooting offhand, which is what you want in a hunting gun. Anyhow, now you can twist this way and that, cant it a bit to get the perfect fit and so forth. And this is the cylinder. It's a 500cc cylinder, fills to 3,000 psi. Now it fills with a Foster fitting fill port here. You have the gauge on the other side, and it's a single shot gun here. So you open up the lever that engages everything here. You put in your projectile, and you have to seat the projectile. You want to push it forward firmly, and you want it basically to start in the same, every projectile to start in the same place. Get it engaged in the rifling and kind of figure out the pressure you're putting or do a visual cue and so forth, but you'll get more accuracy if you can seat them more consistently. So just seat them in there, push them in firmly, and then pull this back. Now you can see that even the way I'm standing just on the other side, I can cock this really easily. In fact, it's remarkably easy to cock considering the power that it puts out. I mean, I don't think that anything else on the market compares to it. So a really good system they've got here. With this open, you can see this tuning wheel that we have here. Now, well, let's go through it here. So if I move this up like this, then it, you can see it's moving forward here, and it's putting less preload on this spring in here. If I move it backwards, it's putting more preload. Now, tuning a Texan is maybe a little counterintuitive because what you're doing is matching it to the projectile, but the lighter projectiles need more hammer spring tension. The reason for that is that a really heavy projectile is going to take a lot of pressure to move, and so it actually builds up a lot of back pressure here. And And so that actually pushes the valve open longer, getting more air and getting more power. So you don't have to hit the valve as hard to begin with, because the back pressure is doing a lot of that work for you. Whereas if you're doing a really light projectile, say, 150 grain projectile, then you need to crank that hammer spring down tighter, get more preload, and that'll knock that valve open enough to get you the velocity you want. Again, really easy to do here. You've got some markings on that wheel, and just figure out what works best for the projectile you're shooting. You can uncock the gun, just pull this back a little bit, take the safety off, pull the trigger, and down it goes. Now the safety is automatic. It comes on every time you cock the gun, but it's here, convenient. You can push it, forward and back really easily. Up top, we've got a dovetail rail. Keep that in mind when you're buying rings. And then going forward, we have a Lothar Walther barrel. These are very accurate barrels. The Texans are really known for being very accurate. I have high hopes for this one with a little bit of testing I've been able to do. And then coming on this, on the end of here, we have the suppressor, the SS part of this gun. Now, this unscrews, which will make it easier to fit in most of your gun cases. So it has a fairly considerable amount of threads there. You'll see we've got a couple of baffles like this inside, and they just fit in there. You also have back here, this section of it is an air stripper. So the barrel ends, right about here. You have an air stripper there, which redirects a lot of that air back into this chamber. And then you have this additional section with the baffles. So a really efficient system. It does an incredible job at quieting down what is an extremely powerful air gun. This section is removable, but it's not really designed to just pop on and off. But you can remove it if you want. The last thing I'll touch on is the trigger here. It's the same trigger that we've seen on the Texans and on the AirForce line in general. It's not adjustable. It's not extremely crisp, but for a hunting trigger, it's just fine. It's not a bad trigger at all. Not really heavy, typically in that 2.5 pound ballpark, and works just fine. If I do have one complaint about the gun, it would be that I wish that trigger, were a little bit more adjustable. But again, for what it's designed to do, it works just fine. So that's enough talking. Let's take it to the range. We're going to do some shot strings and get you chronograph numbers, and then we will, sound test, all this sort of thing. And then we'll go to the range. We're going to skip right to 100 yards because I've done some 35-yard shooting, and it's just one little hole, 1/2 inch hole, basically. So we're going to go straight to 100 yards and see how this thing really performs. Now I'm going to do 2 shot strings over the chronograph. First, we're going to do the Nielsen Specialty Ammo 290 grain slugs, and then we'll do the 350 grain slugs. We're just going to do 3 shot groups each, and you'll be able to see the spread there. So the 290s are up first. Now with the Nielsen Specialty Ammo 290 grain slugs, we had a high of 850 feet per second and a low of 776 feet per second. At the highest velocity, we had a muzzle energy of 465 feet per second. And now to refill and do the 350 grains. And now the 350s. And with the Nielsen 350 grain slugs, we had a high of 815 feet per second and a low of 742 feet per second. And at our highest velocity, we had a muzzle energy of 516 foot-pounds. And that's 3. Now let's test the trigger pull. £2, 9.9 ounces. 2 pounds, 8.5 ounces. 2 pounds, 9 ounces. Very consistent for an average of 2 pounds, 9.1 ounces. In our enclosed range, which is a narrow space without any sound deadening, the highest reading was 113.9 decibels. Now, this is clearly not backyard friendly, but it is far quieter than an unsuppressed Texan. And shooting it outside, you shouldn't have any problem going without hearing protection. We're here at the 100-yard range. We're going to shoot 3 shot groups each with 3 different types of ammunition. I'm going to refill the gun after each shot just so we get the maximum accuracy possible. Once we figure out which projectile is shooting the most accurately, then we'll shoot a 3-shot group and see what that looks like on one fill. Typically what you do with a Texan, or a gun like this, is you figure out what projectile you're going to shoot and then you tune the gun for it. On the Texan, the heavier the projectile, the less hammer spring preload you want, because the weight of the projectile will create a lot more back pressure, keeping that valve open longer and giving it the power it needs. And you turn that hammer spring down, you get more flatter shot curve and so forth. Because we're shooting 3 different types of projectiles, I'm not going to do that, hence the refilling after each shot. First one we're going to do is the Nielsen 290 grain. This is a flat bottom hollow tail slug, and we'll send the target down and see how it does. Now we're going to shoot the Nielsen 350 grain slug. This is a hollow point rebated boat tail. It's supposed to be real accurate in this gun. So we're going to do another 3 shots and see how it does. I pulled that one. Our third projectile is the 411 grain Venturi slug. Now this is a flat nose slug. It's a beast. We're going to see how it does here. Now I'm going to take the 350 grain slugs, do a 3-shot group on one fill, and I'm going to use holdovers to keep them to try and do a proper group like you would out hunting. I mean, we're not tethered, we're not anything else. The drop with these really heavy slugs is pretty steep, and so we're going to use holdovers to see how it goes. Now let's go ahead and send this out to 50 yards and shoot a 3-shot group on a full fill, no holdovers, to see what kind of a drop we get there. Now let's take a look at these groups. Now I've measured these all center to center. Now when we do center to center groups, what you do is measure the entire group and then subtract the width of the projectile. So 45 cal projectile, you're subtracting 0.45 inches off the group. So keep that in mind here. So this is the 290 grain Nielsen slug at 100 yards. Filling it up each time. And this is exactly a 1-inch group here. I mean, you can see where my thumb is on it. A really, really nice group. Now this group is the 350 grain Nielsen slugs. This right here is me forgetting how to shoot. This is me remembering again. This is a called flyer. I pulled the trigger way off. That's just completely on me, just spaced it there. But look at this group right here. This is 3 shots, and this center to center is 0.2 inches. This is smaller than a 1/4-inch group at 100 yards. I mean, you can see what a dime looks like in front of that. I mean, the dime covers that group up, and those are 45 cal slugs making that hole, and the dime can still cover it up. This is phenomenal accuracy. I said at the beginning that we were just going to do 3-shot groups because that's basically what you get out of the gun. But this really made me want to, afterwards I was kicking myself for not doing a 10-shot group because it would have been just phenomenal. I mean, it was just in the same darn hole. I mean, fabulous group. I mean, I just cannot get over how good this gun shoots here. Now this was with the Venturi 411 grain slugs. Getting what looked like the beginning of 2 groups here. Yeah, I don't know whether it's worth trying to figure that out and do it, especially when the Nielsens are shooting so well. So then I decided, okay, we're going to do the 3 shots without filling up after each shot to see what they do here. This was the first one I did. I don't think this is on camera. This is the first shot, second, and third. Then I tuned it a little bit and shrunk the groups up. Got a little bit of a less spread there. So 1, 2, 3, and then I went and shot this group. Now this is on 1 fill, just using holdover here, and this is less than 1 inch. This is 0.8 inches at 100 yards on 1 fill with very little preparation and practice. Figuring out where to hold and so forth. When you get this gun and you start practicing and figuring out what it's doing at the ranges that you shoot at, you will be able to single punch, single hold these shots. Really amazing. Less than 1 inch. To give you an estimation of a kind of a range of what I was doing, I started out holding it center, and then I held 1 mil high, and then I held just over 1 mil high for the 3rd shot, and kept them right in the ballpark. And then I know you guys would want to know what it does at closer ranges, if you hold over and this sort of thing. This is 50 yards, 3 shots, no holdover, just aiming at the middle, and got a really nice group there. And again, this is with the 350 grain slugs, which are the ones that I recommend. The Nielsen, 350 grain slugs, but if you're shooting a lighter projectile, it'll use less air and you'll get a more consistent shot velocity and less of a spread. But I just cannot tell you how excited I am about the accuracy of this gun. It's just blown me away. Really, really impressive. You have all the power you need to hunt, any of the big game in the United States, and some of Africa's big game, and you've got accuracy, competition level accuracy. Topping it off, you have this big old can on the end, which makes it quiet enough that you can shoot without hearing protection. Makes it, you can still talk to your friends while you're out shooting and so forth. Makes it a lot, if you've got a good sized property, it's now, backyard friendly and so forth. So you're getting just a heck of a gun here at a really good price, compared to what's on the market. Nothing is really touching this for the features, for the accuracy, for the power, and everything. So this is the gun to beat in my mind, and you should go out and get one. And get one quick. It's deer season coming up, elk season and so forth, depending on what the regulations are where you live. Probably deer is what you're looking at. But this is a great gun that'll get it done. So if you'd enjoyed this video, I appreciate you liking. If you haven't subscribed yet, we love that too. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.